Hello, hello, and welcome to another British Guy Reviews American Beer. And today we have a bottle of Blind Pig IPA, and this is from Russian River Brewing Company up in Northern California. Now, interesting fun fact here, Russian River Brewing Company was not the first brewery owned and operated by the founder, and in his previous life, as it were, he had a brewery called Blind Pig Brewery, and that was in Southern California in Temecula. And interestingly, the Blind Pig IPA was one of the original beers brewed by Blind Pig Brewing Company. And I think it even goes back as far as his kind of home brewing days. And I think this was one of his home brewing recipes that he took forward that became a commercial beer and was one of those kind of flagship beers of Blind Pig Brewery, and again became a staple later in life of Russian River Brewing Company. So kind of interesting. This beer has a little bit of a history behind it. It doesn't necessarily have the fame and fortune of some of the other Russian River beers, particularly the Pliny the Younger, Pliny the Elder. But I think a lot of people kind of see this as a bit of an underappreciated, or not underappreciated in the beer community, but under-recognized because it has a very strong reputation. But for some reason, it's just those other two beers kind of are the first beers that a lot of people think about when they think about Russian River. So very excited to get this beer out and give it a bit of a review. It's a West Coast IPA. Comes in at I think it's 6.25%. The original Blind Pig IPA recipe back in the day was slightly different from this. I think the Russian River version is a little bit. It's probably not quite as strong from an ABV perspective, but I think that was also a kind of a bit of a hot bomb back in the day. Very high bitterness and an absolute ton of flavor. So I think the Russian River version is a little bit, again, toned down, maybe not the right phrase, but maybe a bit more balanced than that original Blind Pig IPA from back in the day. I always like the Russian River bottles. So the size of the bottle is it's 510 milliliters, which is in American measurements is 1 pint and 1.25 fluid ounces. Always feels like you get a bit of more of a substantial beer when you're up in that, over half a liter of beer. 12-ounce bottles for me don't really cut it in terms of feeling like you've had a proper drink of beer. So, and again, they're kind of signature shaped bottles from Russian River. I don't know if they have the bottle specially made, but you don't really get this shape and size of bottle from many breweries. So let's get it open and see what we get. I have my Russian River glass here just to so there we have it. It's a slightly hazy, ever so slightly hazy, straw colored, fairly nice light light gold straw colored beer. A white 1 to 2 finger head and a nice fluffy head, and then a nice amount of carbonation there streaming up the middle of the beer. I don't know if you can see the carbonation there through the haze. The aroma is very much citrus and pine. So you get that kind of, grapefruit pith, pine, a little touch of sweetness there, a little bit of orange that smells like a very, very good classic West Coast IPA. Right, let's see what we get. Cheers. It's a really exceptional beer. You get that pine and grapefruit, little bit of orange, yeah, that kind of pithy grapefruit. Yeah. On the back end, again, you get a nice bite of bitterness, but nothing that's overpowering. It's touch of sweetness on the front end, and then the finish is super dry, which is very, very nice. It's a real classic West Coast IPA. Yeah, lovely citrus flavor. Nothing massively overpowering here. Just beautifully balanced beer. So that citrus and pine, um, touch of sweetness, lovely dry finish, um, moderate carbonation, which all contributes to the kind of experience of the beer. And at that 6.25%, it's it just makes for a very, very drinkable West Coast IPA. So I can see why, when it comes to the kind of acclaim of the beer, when you put this alongside the bigger Russian River beers, the Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Younger, I can see why those two beers have the let's say the again the acclaim that they have. But if for a beer that you would want to drink, you know, on a regular basis, you want to sit out in the garden and have two or three IPAs. You're not necessarily going to want to go and drink two or three of those much bigger, bolder IPAs. And this, it just has a tremendous balance. It's it's a for a 6.25% full of flavor West Coast IPA. It actually drinks relatively lightly, and just encourages you to keep drinking more. Um, very easily a beer that you could sit and have two or three, even of kind of these larger bottles. So very, very enjoyable. Um, and from a, you might say from a technical perspective, um, it's right up there with those very, very best IPAs. It doesn't overpower you with flavor in the way that the kind of the two Pliny beers do. It's just a very, very nice, almost sessionable West Coast IPA that you wouldn't mind drinking day upon day. This could easily be your go-to IPA. Um, so very, very enjoyable, very, very well done, and absolutely, if you have Russian River beers in your local bottle shop, don't just go for the big name beers, the big hype beers. Don't just go for the Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Younger if you can get it. Um, Blind Pig is a very, very delicious beer and well worth a shout. Well worth getting yourself, a bottle, two, three, and enjoying them. So from a rating perspective, out of 5, I'm going to rate this as the IPA it is, which is a much more a kind of a daily drinking IPA. It's about as good as I've had, honestly. And I would give this a 4.2 out of 5. It's right up there. It's an absolutely delicious beer, very, very well brewed. Very much looking forward to drinking the rest of the bottle. I only have one. I wish I had 2. I wish I had 3, because I would happily sit now in the garden and enjoy 2 or 3 of these. Yeah. So, um, Blind Pig by Russian River. Um, very much a beer that you should try if you haven't had. If you like your West Coast IPAs, I think you'll be extremely surprised by this beer. It's absolutely delicious and extremely drinkable. So, hope you liked the video. Again, like, comment, subscribe. Have you had Blind Pig? What do you think of it? Let me know. Always great to hear what you guys think of the beers that I try. Other Russian River beers, what would you recommend? Again, there's a lot of beers from Russian River that kind of fly under the radar a little bit because they're not those big hype beers. But everything that I've tried, that they've done, I've very much enjoyed, and this is no exception. It's an exceptional West Coast IPA. So again, like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you next time. Cheers.